Before we dive into today's episode, I have something exciting to share with you. If you're a teacher, principal, or supportive parent looking to bring vibrant educational gardens to your school, I'm hosting a free webinar just for you. In this webinar, you'll learn step by step how to grow a thriving student-led school garden that's connected to your curriculum all during class time with no extra work outside of school hours for you teachers or parents. The webinar is available 3 times a day until February 20th, so it's easy to find a time that works for you. Head over to kidsgrowingcity.ca to register now and start growing with ease. All right, let's get into today's episode. Which is better, inviting a community partner or a vendor to grow your school gardens with you and your students, or to grow it yourself? Hi, I'm Leila Mireskandari, your host, and this is episode number 37 of the School Gardens with Ease podcast. Can you guess what is the most common question or request essentially that I get from principals and teachers when I pitch my Oasis programs to them? Can you guess what is at the top of their mind? They say, wow, that's fantastic. It's a fantastic program, but can you come in and run it for us instead of our teachers? My short answer to that is no, but there is a long story and a whole lot of reasoning behind that answer. And I completely understand why they want me to go and do it for them because, first of all, all the teachers think they can't do it. No matter how much I tell them that my programs walk them through everything step by step and gives them everything done for you, and there's not going to be any guesswork and their success is guaranteed, that I guarantee it, they still think that they can't do it. They're like, I'm sure this program is amazing, but there's no way I can do it. Yes, I might need to get better at describing my programs, but that if that insecure voice in your head is really persistent, the one that says you can't do this, nothing could ever change your mind the only thing that could change your mind is to actually jump into the program and experience it for yourself and grow that abundant school garden with ease and see, yes, you can do it. That's the only way. So because teachers have never done this before and they consider it a kind of niche expertise, and it kind of is, or have tried it before and failed, and they have a new set of extra, they have evidence that they can't do it because they did it wrong. That's essentially why they think that they need me and my staff to come in and do it for them. So I get it. I totally get it, why they want that. But let me tell you that long story that I promised, because I used to do that. I used to go physically in the schools and run my programs and grow the school gardens with your students. I used to do it myself at first when I got started, obviously. And then when this work expanded, I started hiring facilitators and trained them, and they would go and run my programs in schools physically with your students alongside the teachers and grow the school gardens. That's what I used to do. And even though I loved it, and I truly loved it, and I'm not kidding, I really did, that approach had a lot of issues. Teachers essentially were not involved as much as they would have been if it was their own initiative. It would have happened a lot that the teacher, while we're teaching and while we're growing the garden with the students, would be sitting in the corner of their classroom or, in the corner of the yard, correcting their, papers or doing whatever, sometimes being rude, being on the phone, not paying attention at all, going into the hallway and conversing with their, colleagues. And I'm like, look at what we're doing, and look at how much it connects to your curriculum. Learn from us so that you can go and deepen this learning later with your students when we're not here and all of that. But none of that was happening with some teachers. And then when we would tell them that they need to water this garden during the week when we were not there with their students, they were like, oh, well, like some of them putting up a fit saying, hey, I thought you were going to do all that had to do with this garden, and I don't have time for that, etc., etc. And we would go back next week, and the garden really was not watered. Yes, believe it or not, I'm talking about adult grown-up teachers. The same teachers who would not tolerate similar irresponsibility and carelessness from their students. Mind you, this was not all the teachers we worked with. A lot of them were, super lovely, super interested, super involved, but many of them were not. And that was the problem with our programs. They were told by the principal most of the time that about this program, and they were like, oh, yes, what a wonderful idea, because that would give me an hour of extra time, prep time, or whatever time, rest time for me during the week. And then we get a garden. And if the garden didn't work, we're going to blame the vendor and it's all going to be good. But then when COVID came and we couldn't physically go to schools for 2 straight years to do the program, I had to pivot and turn this into the Oasis series of programs that I could give to teachers to do. And that's how the Oasis series of programs was born. And guess what? It attracted the exact right teachers, the ones who not only knew the educational value of growing a garden with their students, with their class, and could imagine all the connections that could have been made with their curriculum, but they were excited about it. This was their own initiative. They wanted to teach this. It was their own garden. They would great take care of it. So be super proud of it. And what their students benefited was 10 times more than when we were doing it, because we were limited in time. From setup to cleanup, we only had 1 hour per week with the students, but the teachers, the classroom teacher, because they had flexibility of time with their students and they could connect this to math and language and science and arts and health and social studies and everything else, they essentially could use that time, those times in their during the day in their instructional time for the garden, and they could deepen the learning with their students in a way that we could never do. Not only the teachers were now super involved, the students learned so much more and took it so much more seriously. And they felt a sense of pride and achievement they could never feel when we were going to do this as a vendor with them. The success stories I heard with the Oasis programs are so much more amazing than I could have ever achieved by myself going in and doing it as a vendor. And even though I really miss being in the classroom and getting my hands dirty with the students, answering their amazing questions and, interacting with them, I truly, truly miss that. I would never, ever go back to doing it myself, because I much prefer to empower the classroom, the right classroom teachers to do it, to give them coaching, support, and everything that I have and they need, because I am 100% convinced that the way to bridge this huge gap in our educational system is this. If we want to teach next generation where food comes from and how to grow their own, if we want them to be connected to good food and nature, if we want to raise well-rounded individuals who appreciate nature, who are stewards for nature, and who know how to work with nature, we have to empower their teachers to grow abundant, producing productive food gardens with ease. And that's my mission. And that's why I would never go back to do it myself. So, if you are a teacher thinking to invite a vendor or a community partner to do the garden for you or with you, think twice about that. Please think twice about that. A school garden is different than any other activity that you can bring a vendor to do it for you. Growing a school garden does not require a lot of sacrifice and hard work. At least not the way I show you how to do it in my programs, but it does need ownership, care, attention, and love. You and your students will only be able to give it what it needs if you run it as your own initiative during your class time with your autonomy and connecting it to your curriculum. You know your students better, you know your curriculum better, and you know how to connect it better. And you cannot replace you with anybody else when you want to grow a school garden that's educational and impactful. Growing a school garden has a lot to do with teaching, than to do with gardening. And if you join my Oasis programs, you will get the gardening part all sorted out for you, as well as the teaching part when it comes to the garden. And all you'll need to do is to follow the program and put your personal touch and love into it. To find out more about the Oasis programs, go to the show notes, join us in the programs, or if you catch this and listen to it after February 21st, join the waitlist for next year. I will talk to you next week in another episode. You've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please share this episode with other teachers who might be interested in this topic. See you next week for a new episode.